Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hello. So as usual, I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Miss Kate Sitars, and she and I are joined by the very fabulous Poorva Misra Miller. We are very excited to dig into her story, dig into her copywriting journey, what she has done with copywriting, also where she's living right now. It's really exciting, and I think you guys are going to love it. So Poorva, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm having a bit of a fangirl moment right now. So
well, we are
nice to see
too.
you guys.
We are too. Yeah. Once we read about your story and the group and started digging in a little bit more, we couldn't wait to talk to you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So going all the way back to 2020, let's kind of start there with where your copywriting journey began.
So in 2020, which is a year I think all of us are keen to forget, I was working in corporate marketing for a big multinational consulting firm. And of course, when the pandemic hit, there were layoffs at our firm, and my job was one of the ones that was axed because I was the first one in, first to kind of go. And after sort of the panic settled, I had this moment where I was like, this is an incredible opportunity for me to look at something that I've always wanted to do. So I took some time. I've always been a writer. I love writing. I've had multiple, I guess, failed blogs that are now probably somewhere on the internet. If you type my name from like 2008 or 2012. But I thought that this would be I wanted to do something with writing, and copywriting is something that has always appealed to me because as a marketer, I've always kind of had that creativity and that desire to do something a bit more. And I started reading a lot of books about copywriting and researching. And of course, your beautiful course came up. And it was the only course I have ever paid for to date. And I think it was so worth the investment because it was what launched this journey and what launched this career. So yeah, that's kind of where I got started.
That's great. So what were your kind of initial plans as you started to get into, did you have any initial plans?
I didn't have any initial plans. My husband was still working, and his sort of advice to me was like, you know what, this is a great time for you to become a better dog owner, a better homeowner, like start doing some other things that you have, you don't get time to do. And I would take my dog for these long walks, and I would listen to a lot of podcasts about copywriting, and I would listen to podcasts about entrepreneurship. And one of the things that really struck me was it seemed like a paradigm shift was already happening, where a lot of people were starting to feel a bit disenchanted with their work, with the lives they were living. And this pandemic had sort of awakened that feeling. And I've always believed that if you are early to something, you want to think about something that you can do that may not make you the most money right away when you start, but has the potential to make you the most money over the course of your career. And the reality is, when you're working in a job, you're always at the mercy of your employer, the raises they're willing to give you, the budgets that they have. And so I decided that I wanted to work for myself. And what could I do? Well, I'm a writer. I'm good at writing. So what is something I can do with that? And that's kind of what kickstarted the idea around copywriting. And yeah, went from there.
Yay, amazing. And you have taken it to an extra special level, I guess, maybe not extra special, but to another level, even beyond what I think a lot of people getting into copywriting are thinking about. They're thinking about, oh, I want to be freelance, or maybe a full-time job, but I want to do it full-time and just have a roster of clients and do my one-to-one work.
Right.
But you've taken it to another level beyond that. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So kind of towards the end, well, mid 2020, when I was actually doing the course, it kind of created this spark that, this is something that I could really do. And because I had a background in marketing, I'd worked with agencies, I was a bit familiar with how I could potentially get that set up. At the same time, my husband was starting to feel very disillusioned and disenchanted with his work. And he became sort of an early adopter of the Great Resignation and quit his job. And we sat down, had a meeting, and talked about maybe starting our own agency where he would do operations and I would be more of the creative, because he's sort of the analytical, budgets, accounting. You always need someone like that in your corner. And when we started to think about it, we live in Toronto, which is a very, very expensive city to live in. And we owned a home, and, we kind of had a very typical life of two professionals. And we said, this is a great time to try something that we've never done before, that we've always wanted to do. What if we just sold our house, put a lot of our stuff away in storage, sold a bunch of it, and went somewhere amazing? And so my husband's like, okay, so where would we go? And I was watching this show on Netflix with Zac Efron. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's called Down to Earth. And literally the episode I was on was the one where he's in Costa Rica. And I said, well, I don't know, maybe Costa Rica, it looks pretty there. And from that moment, we started researching Costa Rica. We had a short list of places we really wanted to go to, but we started with Costa Rica, and we just really loved everything we heard and read about it. And from the day we decided that we were going to do it, we were out in 7 months and in Costa Rica with our dog, with a home rented and everything, and with our agency set up and ready to just go.
That's amazing.
So cool.
That is amazing.
It was definitely one of those. This is either a really good idea or a really bad idea, and we won't know till we do it. So.
Yeah.
Well,
and I know some people are hearing this and probably like, how do you do it? Like logistically, what are some of the things that you learned or tips that you would give people to say, okay, if you want to up and go, whether it's a 7-month timeline, maybe a little more for some people, depending, walk us through some of the logistics of that.
So I definitely think research is really key. And I don't know how people did this 30 years ago without the internet, because I was addicted to YouTube and to podcasts and to just reading about Costa Rica. I had things plotted out on my maps about like grocery stores that were close to where we were going to live, and car rentals and hospitals and everything, so that we kind of know what we were getting into. But at the same time, I think that you kind of need to let go of expectations, because when you move to a place like this, it's very different from, where you're coming from. You're not going to have the same conveniences. One of the things we heard a lot about was that if you like peanut butter, don't move to Costa Rica, because peanut butter is $20 for one of the cheaper brands. So we're like, okay, so there's going to be things that we're going to have to give up. But I would say that, you need to kind of go in with an open mind and an open heart, and expect and anticipate difficulty, because it's going to happen. You're going to have discomfort. You're going to have bugs in your home. You're going to have power outages. You're going to have these things that you will eventually either learn to live with or find ways to overcome. But I think a lot of people initially need to go in with that open mind. So I would say that's something to definitely think about. And the second one is, of course, when you're starting your own business and you're taking a drastic step like this, have a little bit of a financial plan so that you give yourself some room and a window where you can take time to figure things out, because not everything's going to run immediately. You're not going to get clients necessarily as quickly as you thought you're going to get them. And so it's probably a good idea to have a little bit of give yourself a little bit of breathing room. And we had a bit of a financial plan going in, and we knew how much time we had before we absolutely needed to either make it work or figure something else out.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Yeah. And not to skip to the end by any means, because I still have a ton more questions about living and working in Costa Rica, but in terms of making it work versus having to figure something else out, you really have made it work. As much as you are able, willing to share, how has this agency life been turning out for you?
I love agency life. It's been amazing. I got my first client actually when I was still in Canada. So that really helped kind of, it gave me that confidence to know that, you know, someone wanted to buy what I was selling, someone liked my work. It was a CBD company from California, which was really cool, which was a fun first client to work on as well. And they had very cool branding, and they hired me for their website copy and their product descriptions, their email sequences. So I spent about 6 months working on those projects and their sales pages. And it worked out really well. And for a first client, I got paid very well because their product started selling. And that was good to know. It was not necessarily a very high sum of money, but it was more than I was expecting to make with a first client. Mm-hmm. And it was a good proof of concept. So once that happened, and once my husband kind of quit and came into the back end to take a lot of the administrative work off of me, I was able to really focus on getting clients, working with the clients that I wanted to work with, and also just staying open to different experiences within the agency. And so I did a little bit of content, and I did copywriting, and those kind of built into this content strategy and copywriting agency, which we now are.
And you've had just continued to land clients since then, right?
Yeah. So one of the things I've found to be really, really helpful in getting clients is LinkedIn. I think a lot of people are, you know, I had a couple of different strategies. LinkedIn is a more recent funnel that I've been using to land more corporate clients, because that's where people live. And I think it's really important to think about the kind of clients you want and who and where they are, and then go there and start networking or reaching out or sending your portfolio to those people. So lately I've been using LinkedIn, but when I first started, I took a lot of pages out of the course book. Nikki, that's how I got my first client. Was I went on their website, I saw their product descriptions, I saw their names, and they were good, but I was like, we can do better. And so I pulled them out and I reworked them and I rewrote them, and I went into Canva and I redesigned some of the things that they had and said, what if it was something like this? And then within a week, we were in conversations about what we could do.
I love that. Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you. It's real. You have really good tips. You have really good advice. And especially I think for people like myself who are not sales focused or don't have a sales background, I know that makes a lot of people very uncomfortable to pitch. But I think when you're showing value, that's one of the areas where people really want and need help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Sales makes people uncomfortable. And the thing is that you can effectively sell without being salesy or without being pushy. And it sounds like you've really mastered that. So good for you.
Thank you. It's a learning. It's a learning. I'm still the one, kind of pinching my husband when we're on Zoom calls, when he's trying to quote people. And I'm like, no, don't quote that high. We're not going to get the client. And he's like, I should quote that high. We need to make money. So it's a fine line where it's like, you should get paid for your work, but also, I'm still working on becoming better at asking for money and asking to be paid for the work that I'm doing fairly and highly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's something that we all keep working through. The more success we experience and the higher our rate should be, then we get to that point where we're like, oh, that should be my rate, but I haven't asked for that yet, or I haven't accepted that should be my rate. Yeah, it continues to be a challenge, a good challenge, but it's a challenge. Yeah.
It is a challenge, definitely.
I'm curious. No, we're switching gears again. My mind is, I'm just like in Costa Rica in my mind right now. I've never been there, but I'm there. Are they one of the countries that I remember it might've been during the pandemic where it's like, come work here, like how like visa wise or whatever, what was that like?
Yeah, so that was one of the reasons Costa Rica appealed to us is they're very, very easy to live and work from. So they are open to you coming in and working online, whichever country you're coming from. They don't double tax you. So we don't pay taxes in Costa Rica. We pay business taxes in Canada, and our entire agency is set up in Canada, all the administration. And so we have clients from Canada and the United States, and it actually works out perfectly. Now, you're only allowed to stay in Costa Rica for 3 months at a time. It's called a border run. And a lot of people do this where you kind of cross the border for a day, go into Nicaragua, go to Mexico, take a flight to South America, just a little mini vacation every 3 months.
I have to go to Mexico tomorrow. Oh no.
And you come back in and you get stamped for another 90 days. So that's how
peanut butter back, right?
Bring that peanut butter back and get all your, little shopping done, things that you can't get there. But that's how we've been doing it. And we've actually managed to even we got some clients in Costa Rica. So tourism is a big agency, is a big industry there. And I think the internet was a bit late to come to Costa Rica. So things are a little bit, they're catching up. But people are realizing now more and more the power of social media, because a lot of influencers have moved there and work there, and there's a lot more digital nomads. And so we got some work from smaller boutique hotels in the area to do Facebook ads and to do the copy and to do Instagram ads. So that was a pretty neat experience because that was something I hadn't done before.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
And have you been able to kind of develop a community, a network down there, or are you still in the process of building that?
No, we were very lucky. So our first day, we ended up the day we landed, we were in an apartment, and we were like, okay, this is not going to work. We need to find something better. And it's weird. I mean, I'm not the universe will provide kind of person. I'm very practical. I think, you have to do things for things to work out. But we were like, we put our luggage down. We need to go to the beach. We need to see what we came here for. We need to remind ourselves of this. And as we stepped out, we ran into this elderly couple that are from Canada. They're French Canadian. And we're like, hey, we're looking for the beach. How do we get there? And they're like, come walk with us. We'll take you. And so we got in, we started chit-chatting with them. A couple of days later, we run into them again, and they're like, hey, are you guys looking for a place to live? Like, what's your situation? So we're like, yes, absolutely. We really need a new apartment. And they're like, well, we have a beautiful apartment on our property if you want to come check it out. And we went over, and they had a pool, and they have this gorgeous property, and they have an apartment, and we loved it. And so we were like, yep, we'll take it. And we did. And through that, they own a hotel in Costa Rica near where we live. And through that and going to the hotel and meeting people, we started to develop a community. And also we started doing yoga. And that was where we met a lot of our current friends and people that we spend a lot of time with. And yeah, I would say we have a pretty good group of friends, a pretty close group of friends. We're in a little bit of a retirement community. So a lot of people are older. So every time there's a new person, a new young person that comes to the area, we like seek them out and they seek us out and they're like, let's be friends because we're the only people under 35 here.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's what it's been, but it's been good. It's been good. There's been hard times and there's been wonderful times like anything. And it's working out so far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, what do you have? What's next in mind? Are you just enjoying the time there? What are your goals, both copywriting, but where you're location wise, all of it?
So, that's a good question. That's a good question. My day-to-day changes right before we got on this call. We had a client call where we've been working on them on a campaign rollout. And as of yesterday, the priorities were all one thing. And as of this morning, they're completely different. So my husband and I had to get on this call this morning and we were in a little bit of a, oh my gosh, it's a good problem to have because of course we've been in times where work's been slow, where you're trying to get clients. And suddenly we got this deliverable dump of work that they need done. And we're like, we're two people. How are we even going to do this? But it's a good problem to have when you have too much work. And so I think next steps are just go back to Costa Rica and try and not work as much as we probably need to, and also get out to the beach, because that was one of the things we learned was that you can take your habits with you. You can take your work habits with you. It's very easy to fall into the trap of 16-hour days and then not going to the beach. And we moved to Costa Rica so we could work a normal amount of time and work 4 or 5 hours a day and also enjoy our life. And that I think is always a challenge for new entrepreneurs, balancing kind of the life that you want to live versus the business that you want to build.
Mm-hmm. Are you thinking about growing, about bringing on some writers to outsource to? What do you
pick me?
You don't get to live with her, Kate. Pretty sure that's not part of the deal.
Well, actually, if we ever do end up building a home down there or buying something down there, one of the ideas we've always had is we should have a smaller property where we could put it as an agency perk and say 3 months of the year, come work remotely, pay for your flight, but your accommodation's taken care of. And
good perk. I love that.
If we had employees, but I feel like that's we're a little bit from there. But we've worked with freelance writers before. We've worked with other agencies for video. We had a project where we were doing video scripts for promotional product launch, and we actually sourced a video vendor. We've sourced designers. So I think our goal is to build our freelance project out as an agency where we do have writers on the roster, where we do have creative design teams on the roster, or video vendors or audio vendors, because I think that it's sort of all becoming more holistic when clients come to you. They want the writing, but they also want solutions for these other things. And what I found really valuable about the course was it's very easy to fall into content because people need so much of that all the time. But copywriting is really where the money is. And so you'll always make more money over the course of your career if you do more copywriting. And so we were very clear from the get-go that we didn't want to become sort of general marketers that were doing anything and everything the client was asking for. We wanted to be writers. And I think when you specialize, people will pay you more for what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you're an expert at your craft. Yeah. So
thank you. I still don't
She's
feel
like, I don't know if I am.
yeah.
It's like, I run an agency in Costa Rica, but
it's always one of those things, right? Imposter syndrome that you get as I'm curious to know with you guys, because you ladies are both sort of mentors to copywriters. Do you get a lot of feedback on where people have landed from your course and from, what you're putting out there?
Yeah. People post in the group, and the tricky thing is that when people are generally active in the group, as they start to get their first wins, and then maybe they'll pop back in and they have another big win. But what usually happens is people get so busy that they don't have time to check into the group, which makes sense. Right. So that, we will try to email, and keep not keep tabs, but keep up with people. But the busier they get, the less time they have to check back in with us. And our next level program is a little bit of a way for us to provide additional support and additional training for people who have taken their businesses to that, or are ready to take their businesses to that next level. So we now have that. But yeah, it's a wonderful thing because they've flown, but then it's hard to be,
they've flown the dust.
How's it going? Exactly. Don't forget to call your mom. Yeah.
Like when we saw your post, it was like, oh, wow. Like,
I think it's, and the reason I asked this question is because I found the Facebook group really, really helpful. It's amazing to see what people are doing, how they're doing it, because you learn from your community, right? And I think peer-to-peer learning is something that's just becoming more and more available. And it's awesome to read that. And I was just curious to know if you guys pop in there every once in a while to say, let's
every
see.
day. Yeah.
Well, every day to see how people are doing. No, it was nice to be part. Well, I'm still part of the group. I just want to go in and chit chat. But you learn a lot from that community. And I think that's one of the best parts of the whole program, is having access to that group.
Yeah, it is. It's,
the whole thing's great, but that was something that was wonderful.
Yeah, no, we're very fortunate in that the Facebook group, the community, is just a really fantastic group of people, just supportive and smart and invested in growing their skills and helping other people grow their skills. I agree. It is a fantastic community. Yeah.
And it is a good problem to have if people are not writing in it that often because they're busy and they're working. Right. Because then you know that you've mission accomplished.
Exactly. Yeah.
For anyone listening who hasn't checked in, please let us know. Let us know how you're doing. There's some days where I'll send Nikki a message. I'm like, have you heard from have we seen anything from so and so in a while? Like, where are they?
Yeah. Well, and there's always one of the things I love is when people share their portfolios, because that's where you see the kind of work people are getting and what they're doing. And again, you get to learn, and there's some really talented writers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Some of my favorites are the ones who every once in a while someone will post saying, oh, I'm just having a really rough time today. I've been sending pitches and just nothing's coming through. And then of course we have, people commenting and saying, stick with it. You can do it. I was there too. And then that same person, like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, will be like, guys, I just heard back on 3 of my pitches. I just landed my client. There are definitely
I feel like that's a phase in the copywriter's journey that everyone goes through of like, oh, and then oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And it's weird. I don't know if this is a common experience. Maybe it is. And this is why it's helpful to talk to other writers. But do you find that things sort of come suddenly in waves? So you can have like these quiet blank periods where you're sending pitches, you're, sending out your portfolio and no one's really biting. And then suddenly you have 3-4 people coming at the same time. And then you're sort of like, okay, how do I do all of this at once? Now I have the opposite problem.
Yeah, definitely sometimes. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like when it gets quieter, I tend to repitch my existing clients in that time, because usually the work starts faster and can fill, so it doesn't always stay quiet,
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think the universe sometimes seems to be like all moving at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes too, for newer copywriters, they'll be, well, I'm sending out my pitches. And then they'll take the time to post in the group or to get some feedback on a coaching call, or even just look at it themselves and go, based on what I've learned. Kate and I were just talking about this the other day, that probably one of the hardest things for new copywriters is to actually take out the sales from those pitch emails, right? Because it's so, you learn so much about copywriting that you have to really kind of approach it with a very different mindset when you're sending those pitches. Otherwise you can turn people off by having anything at all salesy in there. Yeah.
Right. And I think that, that's such a good point that you make, Nikki, is that's you learn so much in the course, and things that you thought, because a lot of it is trial and error when you're first starting out, and a lot of experimentation, right? And so as you become a better copywriter, you become better at pitching too. And they sort of feed each other, because your first pitches might have been super salesy, and now you're like, okay, well, good copy kind of sells itself. You don't need to try.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I'll go back and look at my pitches now.
Just
my pitch emails that I've got saved. I need to rework those.
Yeah, no, but it's, it's not fun and it's not sexy, but it comes down really to practicing, to consistency and persistence. And I mean, know that you've created a very successful agency and you get to live in Costa Rica.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you would agree that there's no magic to it. There might be some lucky happenstances, meeting that fabulous couple. But when it comes down to success, it's really a matter of just taking the steps and taking them consistently and persistently.
I would agree with that. I think, and a lot of times, it takes time to see the fruits of what you're trying to do. So it does take a lot of patience and a lot of persistence. And someone said to me when I was first starting out, don't do anything you're not willing to struggle for or fail through, because you're not going to stick with it long enough for it to work out. And of course, I mean, rejection, crickets when you send out pitches is part of the journey. It's part of the experience. So you got to love the craft.
Yeah. And be willing to push yourself outside of those comfort zones, to feel that self-doubt come up and still say, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to do it even though I'm feeling self-doubt or I'm feeling imposter syndrome, because you don't get the wins, the small ones or the big ones, without being willing to take that scary step. You don't get to live in Costa Rica without going, oh, it might be scary to live in Costa Rica, but let's do it anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. So the beach I live on, the beach across from me is the Four Seasons, Costa Rica. And I get to see, I can see them from far away, and they're sort of my dream client. I'm just putting it out into the universe right now. I'm like, when will I be able to land?
I think you could.
Yeah. Also, you seem to be very good at getting the universe to provide you with things. So yeah.
Some lucky happenstances.
Keep us posted on that.
That's
when
my
you
dream
land
client.
them, let us know, because I think you will. So
I hope I will, but
That's fantastic. I'm so excited that we got the chance to sit down and chat with you. Also
Thank
now,
you.
yeah, I think Kate and I are show up at your door, be like, surprise.
You're welcome anytime for any time. We should do a writer's retreat in Costa Rica.
I love it.
Copywriting,
yoga, writing.
Just
Exactly.
saying, this
Can
is
we
not
put that
out
in
of
the
the realm
universe?
of possibility.
Putting it out there into
like
the universe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's not out of the realm now that we're starting to think more about live events and just
we are
putting that out there, friends. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, if someone has been listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to learn more about Poorva, more about her agency, or if someone is listening and going, ooh, I work for the Four Seasons and I want to hire her, where can people find you?
So they can find me at stratusmedia.ca, which is our agency website, or they can find me at Poorva at stratusmedia.ca. And yeah, or they can find me on LinkedIn, where my over padded resume lies, and I haven't updated that in a while, but
step by step, there's always a lot of stuff to do when you're running a business.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Poorva, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for building this beautiful community, this course, I guess it really is almost like an academy, like a learner's academy for copywriters. I mean, there's so many courses out there, and yours works. Yours works. So
yes. Thank you. Well, for all of you watching or listening, I could feel you opening a tab to search Costa Rica. So if that's part of your plans, this is just a reminder to keep taking action consistently and persistently. And we'll catch you all in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.